Hey guys, AK88 on cars. Okay, so today we're going to talk about engine building, the Z20 LET and the specification. This is going to be a talking segment. However, I'm doing this relatively live. Most of the time when I make videos, it's after the event. Now it's happening literally as the event's happening, which is a great chance to point out the things that you think I'm doing right and the things that you think I should still cover. So today we're going to broadly just talk about the components that we've chose, why we've chosen them, and basically what's coming next. And we're going to talk a lot about our goals and talk about why we've landed on those sort of decisions. So it should be fun. Let's check it out. So before we get too far into it, the first thing I want to talk about is the spec that I chose on the car and why I chose this spec rather than others. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rattle through the spec in terms of what I choose in a section. I'm going to go into each one in a tiny bit more detail, and you can let me know whether you agree with them or have missed anything. But just before we do, let's talk about what the goals are for this car. So the goals are, we want to run about 450 to maybe 470 brake horsepower at the fly. I think that's a really suitable number. I think when I think of new sort of final edition Lotus Exiges, with a bit of a tune on, I think they made a 430 right out, and I think you could probably get like 20, 30 horsepower extra out of that by putting more tune on again. The chassis are not the same, but the form factor is slightly different, and those cars seem really happy at that kind of power. And I think that's perfectly where I want to get to. But the other things that are important to me are, number one, reliability. I need to be able to drive it to a track day and then go and put 2,000 miles on it driving around Europe, and it will be fine. I don't want the car to be all top end, and I want it to spool and boost as quick as possible. And I want it to be fun to drive. Really important. I don't want it to run more power than it should do. This is a light car. I still want to be able to road drive it, track it, drive it on drag strip, go and drive it across Europe, and I don't want that to be a hassle. So I'm looking still for a little bit of an all-rounder, even though I'm really quite going at it. So look, let's just run through the spec really, really quickly. So let's start with turbos. So it's a Garrett. I was always going to get a Garrett, nothing else. I think the improvements that Garrett have made to turbo technology over the years, but over the last decade especially, with more mainstream adaptations of turbochargers in economic cars and supercars rather than just sort of hot hatches and turbo diesels, has just been amazing. The efficiency of these things are amazing. So what am I going for? I'm going for a G25 550. It's a Gen 2, so it's technically called a 585. I'm going for an AR of 0.072. It's going to be externally wastegated and put on a V-band flange. So that's the turbo. Coming on to internals. Internals I'm getting from Courtney Sport. So I've gone for Wozner pistons as well. I'm not going to strike the car. I'm just going to leave it as it is. So we've got Wozner pistons, and we have PEC forged rods, as well as ARB studs. I've also gone for a set of Crescent aftermarket cams. I'm going to explain why I went for them over Piper and Kink cams later in the video. We're also going to be upgrading a small element of the transmission, broadly the clutch. So at this sort of power, we've got to run a puck clutch. So we're going to run a 6 puck paddle clutch as well. I've also got an up-rated clutch cover. Both of these are actually from Hex. Great manufacturer, really famous, so I think that should be really great. In terms of ECUs, we're going to ditch the standard system and move over to a Syvex S7+. I'm also going to pair that with an AIM dash as well. There's a great comparator and integrate really well. Talk about a little bit more about that later. Exhaust manifold, I've gone for Walton exhaust manifold as well. Great, unlimited warranties, really customizable, super nice business, and highly recommended by everyone I spoke to. Okay, so let's dive into the reason why I chose certain components. We'll start with turbo. So look, for me, there was only ever one turbo that I was going to want, a Garrett. A proper Garrett, not a Pulsar, not the Chinese copy of it, an actual full-blown Garrett. A couple of reasons. I especially feel like with the most recent generation of turbos, there's been so much efficiency and time spent put into their turbine and sort of housing assembly that's really leading to great efficiencies as well. So it was always going to be a Garrett. So when you select a Garrett, the main thing that you're looking at, or how they do their sizing, other than the flange sizing, which is the 25 segment, 3 numbers at the end. So at the moment, the turbo I'm looking at is the 550. It's technically a Gen 2, so I think some call it the 565, but we're just going to call it the 550. What does that mean? In theory, the turbo can run up to 500 brake horsepower. And considering this is one of Garrett's smaller aftermarket turbos, that's crazy. But just think back 10, 20 years when we started in cars, or some of us started in cars, that was a crazy amount of power to get from their smallest turbo as well. So simply amazing. The next one up is the 660, larger cold side impeller, larger hot side driver, like it's a bigger turbo. Now the next thing we do is spec the turbo housing AR size as well. So for Garrett in the 550, you could have a 0.49, you could have 0.72, and I think you can also have, I want to say 0.9291, something like that. Anyway, the basic idea is the smaller in theory, the faster it's spool, but then the less you'll sort of get on the top end. And similarly, with the 91 or 92, whatever the size is as well, you're more likely to run up to the higher powers in that as well. I sort of ummed about this. Turbo spool is really key for me, but I really do want progression in the rev range. I want to really have the maximum amount of sweet spot in that turbo range. And by calculations, we think it should be on full boost at least by 4,000 RPM. If we're lucky, a little bit less. Let's see how we get on. We have some options to fully flow test the entire block and put this through a racing computer at TDI as well. But the question is do we actually want to spend time doing that? Now that we've got the parts, I think we might as well just sort of fit it out. So external wastegate versus the internal wastegate, bit more control, bit more tunability, bit more usability as well. So I've actually gone for a Garrett external wastegate, haven't gone for a Thai one. A little bit different. I figure we'd have the entire system to itself. So what I'm hoping to achieve there is effectively get the turbo into its real sweet spot, which is the 80% sort of efficiency mark. With this turbo, where you really want to make it live is basically 450 to 475. Anything out of that, the efficiency just starts to wane off. Put some power efficiency graphs up here. Well, what this is basically trying to show you is effectively, if you're really high up or really low down, this is where the efficiency goes, and you just really want it in the sweet spot right in the middle. So this is going to be a great turbo. It's great. I've also mated it with a Garrett returk valve as well, so we're not going to have a blow-off valve, which probably means we're going to have even more turbo chatter than we do at the moment. This thing will make some amazing noises, considering it's going to be located right behind my head. So there we go. So now I wanted to come on to what we've done inside the block. So look, Wasner are known for making really great forged pistons. They've been used in Vauxhall in that Z20 lat application for ages and ages. They are very well made. People think very highly of them, and really they're quite good value. So whilst it feels like a little bit of a common choice, I'm not afraid to make that. I think this is the right choice. The H rods are from PEC or PEC, which I believe is a British company as well. So look, they're going to be mounted with ALP bolts. I've already got some ALP bolts. Pretty much most of the structural loading bolts will be from ALP. Very well-known brand. On the clutch, I did a little bit about what I want to do about this. I did wonder if I could get away with organic clutch, but I think now we're running higher power. I think we have to go to a paddle. So over the choice of a 4 or 6 puck, generally the higher the puck, the easier the bite point is, or at least that I read. So I'm hoping that the 6 will be the closest part there. We've got an uprated hex cover as well. Again, it's recommended just to make the two together. So I think this will be able to handle the power. The car's quite light, so we're not putting a huge amount of strain on drivetrain components in comparison to Astra, Vectras, Zaviras, or any other larger Vauxhalls that run these engines. So I'm hoping for good results there. So camshafts, we were seeing the Crescent and the Piper fast throw cam. So I've got some Piper a valve spring to change in the sort of top end, the head end of the engine, as well as some new stem steel. Hoping that will make sure that we don't get any valve float, which is generally a problem that Z20 lets with stock internals start hitting into as well. So the reason we went for the Crescent is when we look at the data here, and on the basis we've gone from an AR 0.72 turbo, and we are going to get some decent top end power here, and we're going to be pushing it probably the rev limit to 7,500 RPM, which is not the normal place that these Z20 engines live in, but do live in after they're tuned. from speaking to Courtney, I think these really are geared and generally get better results over the Piper cams, especially when paired with Garrett turbos. They're saying the power band is really in tune here between 5 and 7.5, which is really great. And Courtney is saying that when they're measuring it with big Garrett applications at 7,000 RPM, 70 brake horsepower, more than the standard cams. I mean, why you would run standard cams in Garrett applications is beyond me. And, even with some of their Gen X manifolds and turbos, so that's basically a sort of a modified Borg-Warner turbo. I think Courtney now make stage 3 or stage 3 plus versions that can run 350, 360 brake, which is a great number from there. They're sort of seeing about sort of 8 to 10 brake horsepower over the Piper cam. So look, not in day different. I was really impressed with collection and the manufacturing quality of the inlet manifold, so I felt like this would be a good choice to go for. Okay, so let's come on to talk about engine management. I said that I'm going to ditch the standard engine management. Why? I know some people swear by them. I know Courtney and various Vauxhall tuners love them. I want the total control of a standalone ECU, and there's no better standalone ECU in my mind than the Cyvex. I have never heard a single bad word about them. The amount of optionality, how they integrate with other devices, so switches as well as dashes, it just seems to be second to none. And what that's going to allow us to do as well is so we're not going to do a complete loom swap. So that's the other option. You can probably literally just run an entirely new power system, together, which ditch the standard loom. We're not going to do that. We're going to want a wiring harness so that we can use part of the standard loom. But what it allows us to do is ditch certain sensors and put various other sensors on. So for example, we will be ditching the mass airflow sensor. Anyone knows from tuning them, they're quite sensitive, they tend to go, they're great and very accurate in standard applications, but for dirty great turbos, we want something a little bit more durable. We also, in the standard management and sensors, don't even have oil pressure sensors. There's just almost like an idiot light that if the oil light goes below a certain level, it's there. So the amount of control that we can put around that as well will give me some great amount of comfort. We're going to pair it with a named dash. I've always wanted the digital dash in the car. It's going to give us loads of optionality in terms of what we can monitor and race. The two together will be amazing. AIM allows you to customize in their templates what sort of dash you want, including what sort of things you see, which means that we can effectively lose any of the external monitoring stuff. I'm still going to keep all my boost gauges and my oil gauges in because they're already there, but it's not going to be like a 90s hot hatch when there was dials as far as the eye can see. So yeah, that's not happening as well, which is great. Also keeps the weight down. So that's the reason why I'm doing that. More control, more safety, more customizability. And if you're going for it, I think you might as well go for it properly. Manifolds was a very hard decision. There's lots of great manifolds out there, from Nortec to Walton to Trust as well, that make things at a little bit of a cheaper price as well. I think it was really to be between the Nortec and the Walton manifold. Walton seemed to have more customization. I could also buy directly from that website. With Norton, I couldn't buy it. I found a couple of other suppliers. I mean, Courtney used to supply them. I don't think they supply them anymore. Gizmosport, I think, supplied them. I bought some parts from them before, but again, it's just easier, I think, if you go to the main manufacturer of them. Also, the lifetime warranty is very tempting. They were really helpful when I emailed them. The dispatch times, they're making these things up from scratch, 1 or 2 weeks. That's pretty impressive. That takes us through the main components and kind of the reasons why we're at certain choices. Now, what's happening at the moment? Well, we've ordered them. There is an incredibly large sum of parts coming over and joining the car. The car at the moment is currently having the engine removed, so we're kind of getting ready for this, and the whole plan is to get it in one go as well. Like I sort of touched on earlier, where there's loads of other little parts that I bought over the time, from balancer shaft deletes to new baffles to go in the oil sump, to billet trigger wheels, to new ancillaries. Now, I must admit, I originally bought a Boundary racing pump for the oil pump, but checking out wearing them just because various other persons have posted issues with these basically exploding. I felt a bit sorry for Boundary, because I think from what it seems to have transpired with these pumps is, and okay, so what is this? So within the oil pump, the pumping as itself is done effectively by something that looks like a gear. So you've got a gear surround, and the movement of the two creates the pressure, which creates the oil flow. And at really high applications, around 500 brake horsepower, those standard wheels are known to break. And obviously when it breaks, it's bad because oil stops flowing, but also it directly flows sharp bits of metal straight into the engine, which also is bad. So it's just bad. And I heard about some of these breaking, and I think what it transpires to be is that they're totally fine when you put them in the OEM oil pumps, but if you use them in any of the pattern parts or remanufactured parts, bearing in mind that actually some of those remanufactured parts are better than the OEM, that's where the fault comes as well. Now, I don't know if Dad's car is running the standard oil pump. Suspect it is, decided not to risk it. So I'm actually going to sell that. So if you're looking at my eBay and thinking, maybe I should buy it, don't let that stop you. It's just the reason for me is because I don't know the history of the oil pumps on the car. All of that coming into play, we should be able to achieve a really nice level of horsepower. It should be hopefully really usable. Now, the other thing that's going to be interesting is what torque figure we're going to get to, because before the torque is really pinned. So if I put up a picture of the power graph, you can see that torque graph is all sorts of wrong. Also, the power starts dipping off on Z20 LETs on the standard cams and turbos at about 5,500 RPM. So this should be exceptionally more. I'm hoping it should be quite progressive torque as well, but let's see where we get to. Look, I hope this was helpful. I didn't find a huge amount of these initial discussion videos. Lots of videos of people racing pretty hard and all looking great, but not many talking about component choices and sort of filming the process right the way through. We're going to be filming lots of content, both on YouTube, but also think about getting subscribed and follow my Instagram and Facebook. I'm posting different types of content on there, not all content suitable for YouTube. Actually, quite a bit of discussion taking place on those sort of things. So if you're not, it's worth checking them out, especially if you just want to follow it for the next couple of months. And what you do beyond that is your own business. Also, another reason to get subscribed. After this, the first thing we're doing is we're going to Santa Pod. So we're going to put some quarter mile times. We're going to see how we can improve our quarter mile. You check out my videos of the 330 brake version. It should be interesting checking out the 450. We're also going to take it to Spa, so that will be really cool. As I said, and the other thing we're going to do is we're going to record some videos, again, that are missing from YouTube. Things like people just getting on the motorway with a 2 litre with a G25 550 and just putting their foot down at 2000 RPM and showing what the lag and the spool is actually like, because I've searched YouTube and I just can't find that content. So look, I hope that's interesting. This video has been interesting. I hope what's coming might sound interesting, in which case I'm looking forward to seeing you there. Otherwise, guys, as always, please take care and see you soon. Ciao.